take it away. So I am doing my in-service presentation on vocational programs with an interdisciplinary approach. Um, we're gonna basically go over these areas. I want to talk about what vocational rehab is, what the roles are of OT, PT, and SLP, our program, and I'm gonna highlight 2 cases, and then volunteer testimonials, which will be Nate and Jessica. So this is a beautiful quote Nate found, and he wanted me to read to you guys. Helping others without expecting anything in return is what true self is all about, by Gavin Bird.
I
So we
love
all
that.
do. Yeah. Nice find, Nate.
Thank you.
So what are vocational programs? Basically, what we're doing is helping students learn skills to help them in the next phase of their life. I think a lot of it, the traditional route is always, oh, you'll leave high school and go to college. That might not always be the case. Some students go right into the workforce. And with students that have disabilities, I don't always think that high school prepares them enough. So when you have a vocational program, you're learning how I can advance myself, get myself into entry of work, and also once I'm in, how I can advance further into that career that you go into. So what is it? It is a discipline that works with adolescents and adults with disabilities to identify your vocational strengths and weaknesses. And I'm just going to talk a little bit about my experience with not so much vocational rehab, but how we can provide the best services. And I have an in-house clinic at my grad school at Southern, and a lot of our cases are adults with TBI, stroke, other neurological impairments, and they are not functioning at the level that they used to. So what do we do for them? We're giving them speech. I'm assuming they're also getting OT and PT services at a different practice, but when you have adults that have these disabilities, like the whole goal for them is always RTW, return to work. How can we get them back to work? And sometimes the case is they're not going to go back to the position that they were at. They don't have the cognitive or physical ability to go back to work. So what, like a big population that we see this a lot is TBIs, and they're the TBIs, you have like the highest survival rates, especially like the younger you are. And when you get a TBI, you have not just changes physically, you have cognitive changes, sensory changes, behavioral changes. So those are going to prevent you from going back to work and being successful. So even I'm highlighting teenagers and adolescents today, but this is even for adults, how it could be so beneficial, because we want to figure out what environmental modifications they might need, what job now would take them back, because maybe the job that they had isn't going to want them back because they just aren't going to perform at the level they were at. So I've had a lot of experience with adults with TBI, working on how to get them back to doing like basic stuff. Like we had one patient in our clinic, like long division was very important for him because he had a job where he did a lot of long division, and it was so hard for him. And we still had to make a goal around it because it was something he wanted. Was it the most functional goal? Maybe not, because he wasn't going to go back to doing that job, but it was something that made him happy. So it's something we worked with, because speech also does a lot of cognition. So who's involved in vocational programs / rehabilitations? You have your PT, your occupational therapist, your speech pathologist, your psychologist, social workers, parents, counselors, teachers. For the sake of this presentation, we're going to just talk about the first 3, because that's who that's like the primary 3 that we're working with in the clinic. So as I mentioned, we want to prepare them for post-secondary options. And a lot of parents that have children with disabilities, there's not programs for their children necessarily out there, so they don't know that this exists. We're very lucky. We're in the Stanford area. We're close to a lot of neighborhoods, and people hear about us because it is such a well-known practice, but there's not a lot of funding available for like federal and state programs such as this. So it's nice that we have something to offer students in the area, because it's a support that they otherwise wouldn't get. So quickly just going over the roles. PT is going to look at the body. We're going to look at the functions, the limitations. What can this person do? What can this person not do? They're going to find exercises. They're going to help them restore any possible mobility they may have lost. This is if someone had an acquired injury. They're going to focus on functional activities related to work performance, work on fitness, get you back to that, not the initial, not everyone's going to get back to like their baseline or initial status, but maybe close to it. OT is going to look at task performance. They're going to see how it's your limitations or weaknesses impact your work performance. What's the intersection between work demands and the work environment, and how can we work together to make sure it's all being considered? They're also going to look at the context. If you got injured or you're in a wheelchair, what are some barriers that are going to impede your success? It could be there might not be ramps. Maybe there's not transportation. You might not be able to dress yourself to get to work on time. So they're going to work with you so you have the most success. And then SLPs, we're going to identify speech, language, and cognitive deficits, how they affect your job performance, and what the impact is of these deficits and how we can minimize them. So the next few slides are going to be a little speech heavy because that's my primary focus. So just bear with me. So what are common deficits that we see that impact employment setting? For one, speech. That's your cluttering. That's when there's really rapid, unclear, unorganized speech, and people who clutter don't even realize they're cluttering, so it's just jumbled sentences. You're going to have your stuttering, dysarthric speech, and even a foreign accent. We see so many people coming into speech offices asking, can you reduce my foreign accent? My employees can't understand me. My employer can't understand me. It's impacting the way I talk to customers. So that can impact your employment. Expressive language. Maybe someone has limited expression. They have poor word retrieval skills, poor writing skills. Receptive. They don't understand what you're saying, or maybe their auditory processing is slow. They don't understand like the vocab you're saying. I know this is kind of like a side, but with like healthcare literacy, I always think about how when we treat patients that are from a different background and a different country, when we give them pamphlets and exercises, are we making sure they understand what we're giving them? Are we then saying, okay, now repeat back to me what I just told you, to see, are they understanding? Do they have comprehension of what we're telling them? So that's always something I always keep in the back of my head, because healthcare literacy, to us, it's like a second, we're so used to it, but not everyone is. So some people have, poor vocabulary understanding and comprehension. Pragmatic language. This is how we use language. We know our kids and adults on the spectrum, this is a lot of what we see. They have the poor eye contact. They can't stay on topic. They're tangential. They'll go on tangents. You don't know where they're going with this conversation. Verbose, they just keep talking. And a lot of it's just meaningless. It has nothing to do with the context of what you're talking about. They may make socially inappropriate behavior and comments. For speech, that's something that we try to bring to their attention and say, okay, how can we fix this so it doesn't come off rude? Especially when you have high functioning autism, because the person across from you might not know that you have autism. So they think you're just being rude and you're unprofessional. So that's something we also want to work towards. Cognitive linguistic, a lot of memory stuff. You're gonna have patients that come in and they just can't remember anything. And how is that gonna translate into a job when you're given a list of stuff to do and you can't remember? Maybe your processing speed is slow. So we have to give them tools and strategies to say, hey, look, what you're saying, you're talking too fast and I just can't process it. Sorry, I'm just charging my laptop because it's gonna die. Executive function, poor problem solving and reasoning, planning, that all back to that cognitive. Some people just need extra time and need strategies and therapy to really hone in on like where their weaknesses are in their executive function. So how do these affect an individual vocationally? So just an example, let's say I had a teenager come into the clinic and she wants to be part of the vocational program. She doesn't want to go to college. She just wants to go straight into the workforce, but she has a severe stutter. Now, when she's interviewing over the phone, is the person going to know that she has a severe stutter when she's in a block, meaning she's just stuck? She can't say anything. They might hang up on her. She's not taking it seriously. So this is something that is unfortunate and it happens a lot, but we have strategies for them. And sometimes with fluency clients, we just tell them, be right up front. Tell them I have a stutter and I don't always have it's going to take me a while to maybe finish a sentence because I might prolong a word. I might have a block. So it's going to impact someone vocationally no matter what, because if you're in customer service and you have a stutter, the person on the other line is going to yell at you. You're taking too long to answer my question. Yes or no? So that's something to think about. Expressive language. We have people that have a really hard time communicating with their bosses, their customers, their coworkers, writing a resume, filling out paperwork. If you have trouble taking notes and phone messages, you can't be successful in a job that requires all of that from you. If you're given directions, understanding and following them. Pragmatic language, like we talked about. If a person doesn't have appropriate eye contact, they don't get along with their coworkers, or there's conflict resolution. Caryn knows about this, but we had one of our volunteers, he had a really hard time with conflict resolution. And we were like, this is part of a job. You have to learn how to talk to someone that you have a conflict with and resolve it, because this is not just this setting, it's going to go on wherever you work. You're not always going to like the people you work with, but you have to make it work. And also people that have issues with pragmatic language, they don't always know how to interpret people's feelings and intentions. They have a really hard time with understanding why someone said the thing they did. They don't really know how to interpret their body language. And that's a lot of our autism clients, the ones that don't really know how to perspective take. So that's, again, something speech would work on. And then this we see a lot is that executive function, prioritizing, scheduling, planning, organizing. If you have issues in any of these domains, it's going to impact you at your job. So we're going to try to get you to tackle those issues before you're put into the workplace. And then again, more cognitive stuff, memory, so big, how we can help them remember rules, guidelines, instructions, learning new tasks, attending to tasks in distracting settings. So I know this is kind of, this happened with an adult, but she used to work in an office that was really loud. I think she had a CVA. She wanted to go back to work, but it was just too loud. She couldn't focus. So she asked her boss, can I come in 2 hours early when it's quiet and no one's there? So again, like, she had to advocate for herself. She didn't just like think of that on her own. Speech had to help her and be like, let's see what works most, it works best for you, and if it's functional. And processing speed. So this is where like interdisciplinary should come together. If there is someone on your caseload that you can clearly tell has a decreased processing speed, it doesn't help if you're throwing information at them. Let's do this, this, and this workout, this task, this activity. You're not giving them the tools to process it. Instead, you could say, all right, we're doing this. How do you want to remember it? Do you want to write it down on a piece of paper? Do you want to put it on your phone? Do you have a memory strategy you can use, like a mnemonic? I say, like, use what you have. Our phones are with us all the time. If you want to use a voice memo, but just let's all give each other, like, let's all work together to make sure our patients are getting the best tools and strategies out there. So I found this very interesting statistic. I was looking at cerebral palsy, and the study found that people between the ages of 15 and 27, they found that 70% of them had not received any type of formal vocational education or training. And I think cerebral palsy is one of those diagnoses where you'd hope there were more programs for this population, because there's so, like, the world is like limited in the sense, like, there's not enough support for them. So it all goes back to funding. I don't think states want to fund vocational rehab programs in America. I don't think people take account into the fact that work is some people's livelihood. That's how we participate in society. So there should be programs like this, because when there isn't, you're kind of just letting those with disabilities just hang back and not be able to participate the way they want to. So I thought that was a very interesting statistic that made me sad, but also happy that we have something when others don't. So that brings me to our program. So we usually have a process. Usually parents reach out to Caryn and say, I want my child involved some way, somehow, whether it's volunteering, whether they intern. So the first thing we have them do is fill out paperwork and a job application. You're already in, but you still have to fill out the paperwork and do a job application like you would at any other job. We're going to set you up with an HQHT email. This is how you are supposed to communicate. We're not going to communicate with you on your personal Gmail or your Yahoo. Let's do it like you would in a professional job or a real job with a work email. And also Google Calendar, which you all know, that's how we organize our schedules. So we make sure all the interns and volunteers have that. For accountability, sign in and sign out sheet. I know, Nate, I always bother you. Did you sign in? Did you sign out? But that's accountability. Wherever you go in life, your boss is going to want to know, did you come in on time and did you leave on time? Did you stay longer than you had to, or did you come in earlier than you had to? So preparing them for what it would be like at a real job. And then working with them with OT, PT, and SLP at your scheduled time. So we know, like, if you're late, you give us a heads up. That's just being courteous and being respectful. I know Nate always shoots me a text, I'm gonna be 10 minutes late to speech. Okay, thank you. But all our interns and volunteers know when you have a scheduled set time that you're supposed to see one of us, you show up, because we show up for you. So it should always be reciprocal. And then logging what you did. So I started making one of our interns or volunteers tell me what he did today, what he didn't like doing, and what he would like to do next time, just so I knew in the back of my head what's working for him and what's not. Because even if he doesn't like it, that doesn't mean he's going to stop doing it. I just acknowledge that, okay, you don't like cleaning the trash, but that's one of your tasks. Like, that's what you have to do. So we like to just see accountability. We like to see responsibility, what you're doing, and who you worked with. Because sometimes you might work with me, but I have to leave, so then you go and work with Bree or Alex. So I always like to see who you're working with. So case one, he started the same day as me, actually, in June. He's a 16-year-old male. He's in high school with a diagnosis of pediatric bipolar disorder, autism, intellectual disability, OCD, and ADHD. So when I met him, I had my observations, and PT and OT, they also had their observations for their eval, but we all agreed he had very poor eye contact, inappropriate verbalizations, meaning like he would just say things that you wouldn't say in a work environment, because there's a time and place for that. But I don't think he quite grasped, like, this is not appropriate to say. I can't be blasting this music. I can't be saying these things. Some people might take offense to it. So we worked on that. Difficulty staying on topic. You'd have a conversation with him, and we'd be talking about food, and next thing you know, he's talking about like Hershey Park. That's just an example. Like, no correlation, just tangential. So again, it's hard for the conversational partner to know what were we originally talking about. Like, where did this conversation go? Interrupting others, finishing sentences for other people, so cutting people off. Huge pragmatic issue. In a real job place, you can't cut people off while they're talking. It's very rude. So that's something we had to work on. Low tone, and he's overweight for his age. So he was like a perfect person for OT, speech, and PT. So we all took him under our wing. So SLP and OT are kind of grouped together because a lot of our goals were the same, but we wanted to increase his executive functioning, his planning, his organizing, like the way he demonstrates like flexibility. Like, if something goes wrong, can he come up with a solution? We wanted to work on his conversational skills, his adaptive technology skills. This is someone that is going to be on a computer for the rest of his life. At some job, he's always going to be in front of a computer or a screen of some type. He needs to get comfortable with it. You can ask Christina, so frustrated when we would get on an Excel spreadsheet. He'd be like, I don't know, I don't like this keyboard. He would blame everything else. I don't like the keyboard, I don't like the monitor. And we're like, you have to do it. We're going to make a spreadsheet. It's always the uncomfortable things that make us so frustrated, but he learned from it, and now he does better on the computer.
He's excited. He's excited to work with Christina on Monday, and because he took inventory today of like all the stuff in the cardio room. So he left with his paper.
It's amazing how much better he is at typing too, because that was his big frustration. He just like didn't know really, and even now he's able to type faster and almost enjoys it.
I know, and it took a lot. It's a lot. It's like your comfort zone and like pushing them outside of it, like very much like very savvy with an iPhone, but the minute you put him on a desktop computer, he shuts down. And that was us pushing him. We're like, all right, we're going to go online. We're going to make a Google. We're going to go on, make lists. We're going to do Excel spreadsheets, stuff he would do at a job when he left us. So another was replacing challenging behaviors with meaningful communication. When him and I got into a disagreement, he didn't come to me. He went to the student that was assigned to him and vented to him, and it was all this drama. But I said, that's not the way you do it. I said, we have to have meaningful conversation, because how are we going to overcome this if I don't know how you're feeling, you don't know how I'm feeling? So we worked it out. We had to kind of have like a little powwow, but we worked it out. It was good. And then modification of impulsiveness. You can't cut off people just because you get excited and you want to chirp in. Like, there is a time and a moment to exit a conversation and enter a conversation, and then appropriate conversation. And then physical therapy, we got him to do like a weekly workout. He plans it, we just do it. We show up for him because he shows up for us. So then we did those, and then strengthening and conditioning and endurance training. We had Bree try to get him to explore kickboxing, just different avenues that he normally wouldn't, because like we want him to be healthy. You want to be your healthy self, you want to be your best self, and he doesn't want to do workouts sometimes, and like it takes OT and PT a lot to like push him. And we're like, you got to do it. We're all doing it. You got to do it. And I hate working out, and I still did it. So he was out there making me do planks. I wasn't happy, but I did it because, you do it together. It's a team effort. So then with executive functioning, planning and organizing, when he came in, he just didn't know what to do. He didn't know where to start. So we had a lot of people help, like Lauren. She made an Excel sheet for him and said, okay, this is what you have to do. You have to clean the door handles. You have to take out the trash, sanitize XYZ, and check it off as you go. So this is a visual learner. He needed something concrete in front of him to know, like, this is how I do my work tasks, and this is what's expected of me. So we helped him develop a schedule. We have him ask us, because he asked me the other day, he's like, is there anything else I should do in the gym? Huge improvement. Normally he would have never asked for more work, and he was asking for more work. And prioritizing tasks. So just getting it really concrete for someone, like us spitting out, did you do this? Did you do this? Doesn't help him. He needs something visual that he can refer to, because that's going to help him with his planning and organizing. And as I mentioned, we also did a lot of like pragmatic stuff. I know Liz has been working on like eye contact with him, and I do want to mention eye contact is very hard for people diagnosed with autism. So how do we help them with this, like this, it's such an expected like social thing we do, but for some it's really hard. So I always say, like, don't look at their eyes, like look between their eyebrows, like if that helps, just something, because somewhere down the line the guy he's talking to is not going to know he has autism. He's just going to think he stares at the ground while he talks to me. Why does he do that? It's very rude. So getting that, eye contact. You don't have to look exactly at their eye. You could look at their eyebrows, look at their forehead, just some type of, somewhere on the face, just pinpoint your eyes. Case 2, this is Nate. Young male in high school with a diagnosis of cerebral palsy, ADHD, and a weak left leg. He presents with challenges in auditory working memory, planning and organizing, strength, coordination, and balance. So again, we all came together. SLP and OT, we did a lot of the executive functioning tasks, problem solving skills, and then PT worked with muscle tone, coordination, problem solving, fine motor skill, all that. But this is a really good way to always work, how we can work together. For example, if I want Nate to do something that requires him to be like writing, I could involve one of PT goals and have him sit on an exercise ball while he's doing it. So now we're kind of taking 2 disciplines, 3 disciplines, and doing it in one activity. So my thing is, like, if I know PT's working on something, let me incorporate that into my session as well. Because now he's getting more practice with it. He's doing it more often. And it's not just in one discipline. Now he's also getting it in speech too. So whenever possible, take goals from PT, OT, and speech and try to incorporate that into your sessions as well. And if you have questions, we all like communicate well, just ask, be like, Heena, what can I do? Or Christina, can I do some OT with this person while I'm in my speech class, in my speech session? And then with Nate, we also, because I mentioned he has trouble with like that auditory working memory, we're going to have him use like assistive stuff, like memory aids. So he uses a planner now independently. Before he wasn't, I was always like, write it down. Now he shows me he does it independently. He color codes it. It works for him, so it works for me.
I love that. I need one.
He shows me, he's like, okay, it's in my planner. I'm like, okay, great. And then he showed today, I said, did you get the Zoom link? He goes, no, but I'm going to write it down. I'm going to put it immediately down in my phone, the meeting ID. So he's starting to realize what works for him, which is these little assistive memory aids, whether it's his phone, his planner, I don't care what it is, but he's using it independently. I'm not reminding him. So what did we do for his memory? What I mentioned, like those compensatory strategies. If he doesn't understand what I'm saying, request repetition, or repeat back to me what I said. So I know, okay, what's he missing? What did he not quite understand? Or write down the key points. I would rather him ask me again than kind of get distracted and not know what I was talking about, because that's happened. I'll tell him, Nate, we have to do this. And partly it is his ADHD. He does get distracted and sidelined, and we always come back together and bring it back in the middle. But when we're working on auditory memory, we really want to use these strategies to like keep us on task. So what makes a successful disciplinary vocational program? Communication. I think that if we're all working together, we should work on goals that the other person has made, because the whole point of this is you want to generalize what you work on to go past therapy, past HQHT, into their personal life, into their home life, their school life, in the community. It doesn't make sense if Nate's only using his planner when he's with me for 45 minutes or when he's with Christina. That needs to transcend past like the walls that like we have him in. He needs to go to his school when his teacher's talking a lot and he needs a second, like he needs to write it down and, ask her again for like clarification. That's the only way we'll facilitate carryover. So I always say over communicate. Let's work on each other's goals. If I can work on like core stability or whatever it is, like I will ask the PT how I can do that in my session. So now we are working, 2 disciplines are working on 2 different goals, but together in one activity. And just like I mentioned, like I think we want to set students up for success, and a lot of that is through work. People do find themselves defining themselves by the work they do. That's how they are part of society. Like that's what gives them meaning. So if we can offer students with disabilities, adults with disabilities, like an outlet that helps them, like with a successful work relationship, a successful employee-employer relationship, good work performance, then we should be doing that. Let's give them the skills, because it's not easy to find. Like I mentioned, we don't have the funding for these types of programs. So that's what I have to say. I'm going to introduce Nate, and then after Nate, Jess will speak. Nate, are you ready?
I am.
Okay.
Hello,
You're
everyone.
so cute. So handsome.
Hello, everyone. I'm 17. I'm Nate Smith. I'm 17 years old. I'm a rising junior at the Academy of Information Technology and Engineering, which is located here in Stamford, Connecticut. I've been volunteering here for 2 years with HQHT. Well, I wanted to volunteer here because I worked with Caryn during a clinical trial when I was 8 years old. The clinical trial helped me improve my walking, so I decided to volunteer at HQHT in order to give back. Here, as a volunteer, I worked with patients during their PT, OT, and speech sessions. I've gotten to learn what it is like to be a therapist. I've helped with organizing inventory, working with pediatric patients, and cleaning equipment. During my time, I've also helped with keeping patients and clinicians safe by building PPE face shields. During the OT sessions, I would draw with the pediatric patients so they develop better motor skills. I also helped strengthen fine motor skills with Velcroed fruit. With the Velcroed fruit, we would twist and pull them apart, then put them back together. If the child didn't know how to do the motion, I would demonstrate it for them. I also worked on a puzzle with one of the patients to help coordination. This helps with their visual motor integration. During my speech sessions, we would work on SAT prep, resume building, college searching, promoting events, and I would be using Excel spreadsheets. I joined in on speech sessions and sang along with children, songs, and I would help children request items through verbal or signing communication. During the PT sessions, I would show pediatric patients how to do an exercise, led group workouts with all the therapists, and I initiated a 30-day workout challenge, and I was working on my balance. During my time here, I've seen what it is like to be a medical clinician and work with patients, how every therapist is so understanding and accommodative to each of their patients. I've got to see what different disciplines do when they work together. They are able to see the patient succeed.
I love that, Nate. Thank you.
Good job, Nate.
Thank you.
Wow, I'm getting teary.
And Nate hates public speaking, which is why he was chosen to do this.
That was it was good, Nate. I'm gonna send a copy of this to your mom, if it's okay.
That's okay.
Well, she's gonna cry.
Jess, are you ready?
Yeah.
I think you might be muted.
Jessica, we know you're shy. Stop muting yourself.
Again, another reason why I picked Jess, because they don't like public speaking. Is it the audio, Jess, maybe, on your laptop?
Can you figure it out, honey? because I can't help you, but Heena can.
I don't have control over her.
You have a
Yeah.
Mac, right, Jess?
Jess, do you want me to call you and put you on speaker? Okay,
Can you
let's
do the comments, love?
comment. All right,
Q&A.
let me call Jess and put her on speaker. Okay. Jess, I'm calling you.
I made Drew call Edna today.
Hi, Jess. Do you just want to talk through my phone?
Okay. Can everybody hear me?
Yes.
There's kind of a lot of feedback. I don't know where that's coming from. Okay, try Jess.
All right. Hi, everyone. My name is Sassy, and I have been interning at HQHT this past summer. A little bit about me is that I am a senior at UConn, majoring in environmental engineering. And I chose to intern because they have such an amazing outlook on helping others through so many different approaches and not just physical therapy. I really love their approach and wanted to do the same. My time here, I worked on organizing therapist information into Excel spreadsheets so that it is easier to see what was handed in or what had to be updated. I also worked alongside other interns to help them develop a plan and/or fun activity for their patients. Lastly, at the end of the day, I made sure that all of their equipment and door handles were wiped down to ensure everyone's safety. I also exercised with an amazing occupational therapist to work on gaining strength and helping me cope with my anxiety. These sessions would be 2 times a week, and during these times, I would do Pilates. And during my speech sessions, I wanted to focus on building up my confidence so that I am not anxious when speaking to a large crowd. Having that one-on-one time made it easy to talk to someone and see where I can make improvements. All in all, I enjoyed my time working at HQHT as I got to gain new experiences as well as help others. I grew as a person by improving my communication skills and boosting my self-confidence. I enjoyed my time here and was glad that I had this opportunity.
Thanks, Jess. That was good.
Jess, I'm proud of you. I'm sending this to your dad. Oh my God.
Great
You guys
work.
are doing such amazing stuff, all of you. I'm proud of you, Christina. I'm proud of all of you. Heena, I'm like, oh my God, thank you all.